from Jean-Claude Juncker, the President of the European Commission, insisting that there should be no delay to the Brexit process now that a deal has been reached.
Mr. Erdogan will be traveling to Sochi after rejecting America's call for a ceasefire in Syria. FSN's Nia Punia reports from Moscow.
No other details of the meeting between President Putin and President Erdogan have been made public yet, but the Turkish presidency has confirmed that he will be in Sochi next week. Moscow claims the two presidents are in continuous contact with each other and will discuss the work of the Syrian Constitutional Committee during their meeting. Russia has offered to negotiate between Damascus and Ankara to end Turkey's military offensive in northeast Syria. It's also deployed patrols along the Turkey-Syria contact line to prevent clashes between the troops of both nations. Experts say with America's withdrawal from the region, Russia has become the most important player in the Middle East and is currently the only country that can talk to all the sides engaged in this conflict, a huge diplomatic win for the Russian president.
And the leader of a Hong Kong pro-democracy group is in hospital after a late-night attack on Wednesday, with photos of the brutal incident going viral. His organization had been planning another big march this weekend. FSN's Grace Lee reports.
Jimmy Sham, the leader of a Hong Kong democracy group, was at the center of a brutal attack late Wednesday evening. Police say he was ambushed, and the men who attacked him even threatened bystanders who tried to intervene. Sham's organization, the Hong Kong Civil Human Rights Front, has been responsible for some of the region's biggest protest marches in the past few years. This is the second time Sham's been targeted. He was injured in a similar incident just a few weeks ago. Since August, at least 9 pro-democratic figures have been attacked in Hong Kong.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something. Something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad!
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
This is a test of the emergency podcast system. Activated by contract termination. Rumors of our demise are greatly exaggerated. Welcome to Stacy on the Right with your host, Stacy Washington. She's blessed to be a Bible-reading, gun-toting, Air Force veteran, wife and mom, righteously American. This is a test of the emergency podcast system. Activated by contract termination. Rumors of our demise are greatly exaggerated. Welcome to Stacy on the Right with your host, Stacy Washington. She's blessed to be a Bible-reading, gun-toting, Air Force veteran, wife and mom, righteously American.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I just had a little quick sound glitch there. I'm not sure what that was. Welcome into the show. Today on the program, we're going to be covering a number of different things. Starting off with, obviously, we offer our condolences, our sincere condolences to the Cummings family. Elijah Cummings has passed away, and it's really a sad day whenever anyone who is a public servant, elected official, etc., passes away. We just want to offer how sorry we are that has happened. And apparently he was due to be back. He'd been off for about a month and he was supposed to come back, and instead he's gone on to eternity. So we have to offer our condolences. We're also going to be talking today about, we have a number of really interesting things going on. First off, did you guys catch Megyn Kelly on Tucker Carlson last night? Listen, this is an interesting development. First of all, she's back. She was actually looking at the camera. So she was being interviewed, but she was also taking a peek at the camera. Very interesting interview. I posted it on the Facebook page, Stacy on the Right Show. If you want to watch it, it's kind of long. He actually had her in studio and she sat with him and he went over a number of different topics. And so she was just kind of there for the long haul, I guess you could say. And I think it went pretty well. I mean, there were times where it was kind of weird because I'm so used to seeing her be the host and she was seated in the interview chair, but then she was speaking for extended periods of time. And I was like, I don't know if it was like, you know how it is where you can have someone you haven't seen on in a long time. And when you hear them, you're like, oh yeah. And I always liked her. So my thing, I always liked her, even after the whole thing where she asked President Trump those really rough questions. And even after I realized that she didn't really like President Trump, I still liked her. My experience with her is based on meeting her 2 times. I was on one of those audience panels where it's like 20 people and they're on the risers in a studio at Fox News. It's actually the Sean Hannity studio where you do the audience panel. So you're sitting there and she's standing and talking to you. Well, and this is some of the time. It's actually, I've done it 4 times. I did it twice. I think I did it twice on the Sean Hannity show and twice on the Megyn Kelly file. And so 2 of the times I did it, it was actually in Sean Hannity's studio. I think those were Sean Hannity audience panels. And then the ones with Megyn Kelly were in a big open space and she kind of stands directly across from the camera, and you're on the risers, but in the very center of the risers at the top is where the camera is located. So it's like over your shoulder. There are other cameras in the room that can pan to you as an audience member, but that's the one that she's speaking to. Anyway, so I met her. She called on my name. She called on me by name each time that I was there, and I got to answer a question or, weigh in with my opinion. And then afterwards, I took a photograph with her, and, I got to shake her hand and say hi. And she was fantastic. And this is back in the Scotty Nell Hughes, Katrina Pearson days where they were always on every audience panel. And it was, before Katrina went to Trump 2020 and all that stuff. And it was fun. And meeting her was nice because she was genuinely kind and nice. And remember, meeting someone who's on television or someone who's famous doesn't always involve them being nice. Some people are not as nice in person. Their persona on TV is not the same. She was really genuinely nice. She seemed super happy to actually meet all of us. And I had a great time. I thought it was a real treat for me to get to go and do that. So, anyway, it was interesting seeing her on, and maybe she'll be back on. I kind of feel like that's what that was last night because they didn't bring her back during the day. They brought her back at night, where she reigned supreme for a while before she made the jump to NBC News. And it was interesting because obviously, you know that everyone who works there knows each other. It seemed as if Tucker Carlson was really happy to see her and he had a good time with her. And so anyway, that's what that was. So now listen, I'm posting some of the episodes from LifeZetTV on my podcast site, which is listen.stacyontheright.com. And you see that on the commercials when we have the little breaks, when we go to break, you see the listen.stacyontheright.com logo thingy. And so you can find the episodes from LifeZetTV, the audio of them. We are not fully launched with LifeZetTV yet, so don't fear. It's going to be better than that. But I was trying to find my listen.stacyontheright.com. My desk is a hot mess, so this is a shame. I'm glad you guys can't see it. Okay, so then how about the good news of today, which is President Trump brokered a ceasefire in Syria. So President Trump actually did something amazing. First off, and I want you to see the stagecraft here. You've got President Trump minding his own beeswax, and Turkey decides they're going to invade Syria. So then President Trump has the option of saying, we'll leave 100 troops there, we'll leave 200 troops there, or I'll move some troops around from other theaters of operation, areas of operation. I'll move some troops there, and just the presence of American troops will stop some of the bad actors from interfering with Turkey's action. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Now, and if you're one of those people who gets ticked off whenever somebody disagrees with anybody who's a Democrat, or whenever someone says we shouldn't be at war in X, then you're about to get ticked off. Also, if you have Trump derangement syndrome, giddy up, because you're about to get ticked off, because here it comes. Gird your loins. The fact is, President Trump handled this brilliantly. Here's what he could have done. He could have said what every other president usually says, which is we'll put some troops on the border and our troops will basically prevent others from moving in. And if we lose a few, it will still accomplish our aims, which is being central and a part of every single action that happens in the Middle East. We're still going to be at war there. We're still not going to have a congressional authorization, and we still won't have any justification on why we're there. Okay? Then the president would be pretty much in the same vein as everybody else. But instead, President Trump said, I don't think that's what I'm going to do. What I think I'll do is I'll tell Turkey and everybody else, you know what? Our work here is done. We've vanquished ISIS. We're good to go. Thanks. Thanks for having us out today. And then we're out. We'll pull our 200 troops out. We don't have anybody in harm's way, and y'all go do what you're going to do. That's the statement he makes to the public. But guess what? There's also this opportunity for him to broker something behind the scenes. So that's where it comes in, this letter that he wrote. Okay. So you got Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary Pompeo actually holding a press conference in Turkey, which was a live stream, but we'll get to that in just a second. So President Trump says, now that I've made this public statement, we're not going to be in this thing. I'm going to shoot a letter off. And the letter that I shoot off is going to be directly to Turkey's president. I'm going to let him know how this thing is going to crack out. So here we go. You got President Trump, and he didn't give Turkey a green light to invade. What he did do is he wrote a very, very powerful letter, and it was in the days after announcing his decision to pull out our troops. So on the first order of business, he answers a campaign promise. He says, hey guys, I promised you we were going to pull out. We are pulling out. We're done with that. We're out of there. Good for you. Then he writes a letter, and this is called Diplomacy. Diplomacy 101, for those who are getting ticked off at the president for not being in every war in every continent. This is a lesson for you, not from me, but from the president. So the letter, which was obtained courtesy of Fox Business on official White House letterhead, is addressed to His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and he's the president of the Republic of Turkey, Ankara. He says, Dear Mr. President, let's work out a good deal. You don't want to be responsible for slaughtering thousands of people. I don't want to be responsible for destroying the Turkish economy, and I will. I've already given you a little sample with respect to Pastor Brunson. I've worked hard to solve some of your problems. Don't let the world down. You can make a great deal. General Maslam is willing to negotiate with you, and he is willing to make concessions that they would never have made in the past. I'm confidently enclosing a copy of his letter to me just received. History will look upon you favorably if you get this done the right and humane way. It will look upon you forever as the devil if good things don't happen. Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool. I will call you later. Sincerely, Donald John Trump. So, can I get a what on how awesome that was? President Trump actually said, for the public and for my position as president, I say none of our troops are going to be on the ground and in harm's way if Turkey decides to invade. Behind the scenes, I'm going to negotiate with the president of Turkey, with whom I have a relationship. Hey, did you notice that our guy, Pastor Brunson, was brought back from Turkey, and that didn't happen when Obama was president? It happened when I was president. Did you notice that? So now I'm doing what I'm going to do in the way of sending a letter over and a copy of another letter that I've received so we can work something out. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I think that was pretty brilliant. Notice he didn't release the letter to the public or to the media so they could rip it apart and call him nasty names and, basically go into Trump derangement syndrome convulsions in the streets. He actually sent this behind the scenes to make something happen. And it was for the benefit of the people of Syria, the people of Turkey, and most specifically and more importantly, the people of the United States, those of us who have active duty friends, family, those of us who are running around this country right now. You may be driving a minivan, but your young son or daughter or 3 or 4 of your kids are serving overseas in these areas of operation. And you don't want to see your kids put in harm's way for something that has nothing to do with us, namely Syria invading or Turkey invading Syria. Okay. So I thought, I want to wait and see what the president is going to do. And I'm quite happy with what he did. In fact, I would go so far as to say that one of the most important things we can do going forward is to give him a chance to do what a president is going to do. What else can we think about his foreign policy if we see the past results have been excellent? And that's what he alludes to in this letter. He says, I've worked hard to solve some of your problems. Now, don't let the world down. He's actually talking about negotiating instead of launching bombs and missiles and flying planes overhead. This is from someone that everyone in the world has said is a deranged and mentally ill person, someone who is violent, someone who's a racist, yet he's brokering peace in the Middle East. Let me say it one more time for those in the back. President Trump is brokering peace in the Middle East. Can you say that about Obama? Can you say that about any of our previous presidents? Yeah. So somebody out there has probably got their little angry cat fingers typing right now that all I ever do is say good things about President Trump. You know what? When he does something awesome, I'm going to go ahead and say something awesome about what he did. He did a great job here. And all I want you guys to do is to understand that there's more to being the president than what the mainstream media says about him. There's more to being the president than what really even what we can understand, except what we know about what previous presidents have done. And I think this is going to be something that we're going to see in, political textbooks, the classes that the kids take. They're going to say this is one way in which President Trump was able to broker peace, even in the presence of a hostile media and 50% of the country hating him and wanting him impeached. He was still working overseas to make sure that fewer people died, not more, less bombs, not more. I like it. We'll be right back.
Hey, Kevin, thinking about saving for retirement?
Yeah, but how do I start?
It's easy with Avo, a retirement coach. Let's learn the Avo bet. A is for taking action.
Not anxiety?
No, Kevin, you're gonna be fine.
You sing?
Barely. V is for variety.
Huh. Change up my strategy. Okay.
O is for optimize your savings.
Let Avo lead the way.
Visit aceyourretirement.org today. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. You're neutral to it, and you can hear it repeatedly without feeling anything. But when we introduce a new stimulus, save the food, we've achieved pulling a natural or inborn response from you. Save the food, because 40% of all food in the US never gets eaten. Save the food. Cook it, store it, share it. Just don't waste it. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off for school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Stacy on the Right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I want to quickly just, I want to point out that it is sad that Elijah Cummings has passed away, but remember, he was also a pretty corrupt individual. And so I know a lot of people say it's not okay to mention the corruption of politicians when they've passed away. I don't really buy into that. And I'm not saying that I've already offered my condolences, but it is perfectly fine to criticize. He weaponized the IRS to target Catherine Engelbrecht. That's a part of his legacy. And he also ran his district into the ground and never offered any improvement for the people who continually voted him in time after time after time again. And those same people, unfortunately, are primed and ready to elect someone who is just like him, just younger. So it's pretty unfortunate. Now, I want to get into Nancy Pelosi's USMCA strategy. We're also going to talk a little bit about this. I guess the 2020 G7 is going to be held at the Trump Doral, and the liberals are losing their minds on Twitter about it. They're literally like fire ants rushing in and biting people, but the effect is nil. Fire ants don't kill you. They just annoy you to no end. And the biting hurts, but it doesn't kill you. So just stay the course. We are also going to talk about how the more chores a husband does, the more likely the marriage is to end in divorce. I know you guys, you're probably thinking, what? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Joe Biden's campaign blew $924,000 on private jets. And after the first 1,000 days in office, President Trump holds a 50% approval rating, which is, I think, 5 points better than Barack Obama at this point in his presidency. And I already read you the letter from President Trump. You can find all these links at listen.stacyontheright.com. That's where the show notes are for the show. It goes up about 30 to 40 minutes after the end of the show. Then I post the podcast for people who only listen via audio. So welcome to the live stream watchers, everybody who's tuning in. And I will try to I'm trying to find a little bit of relevant audio that I can share with you on the big expose on CNN. I'm not going to play you a ton of audio. You can watch the videos yourself, but I wanted to find a little bit to kind of launch off that discussion. And then, of course, for people who are wondering about guests, we actually can take guests on the LifeZet TV program that I'm doing. And on this program, the guests are wholly dependent upon if I can have someone in the studio in North Dakota, which is one of our affiliates. So that's why we haven't been having guests lately here on this side. But on the TV side, we can have them. So now back to this. Okay. So the president sends this letter off. Everybody's losing their mind. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's campaign blew $924,000 on private jets. Now, the New York Post actually wrote this story. And it's funny to me because they would have never written this story before, but now that they no longer like him and they want Elizabeth Warren, it's time for them to take him out. So Joe Biden burned through campaign funds at a fast clip over the past 3 months, ending the final quarter in 2019 with less than $9 million after his team shelled out $924,000 on private jet travel. Now, I don't know about y'all because I never get upset when people use private jets. That's your own business. Do what you feel is best with your money and your private jets. But I think it's interesting that someone who believes in climate change, climate warming, global cooling, schmegegony, someone that believes in that would actually spend that kind of money on private jets. Is it that we don't have over 1 billion commercial flights a year in this country? He can't find one smoking hot airplane to get him from point A to point B or his campaign staff? Now, look, he can do whatever he wants with his money, but I think it's hypocritical of him to tell all of us that we need to reduce our carbon footprint while he's using private jets exclusively while he's running for the presidency. Again, just live the way you talk. If you're going to be a private jet, customer, then stop screaming about climate change. Because, the rest of us, we don't care. We don't care if you fly on private jets. We also don't care about your lies for climate change. We know you're lying. You know you're lying. So just stop. Just stop acting like we don't all know what's going on here. So his war chest of $8.9 million, which is a small fraction of what his leading rivals have on hand. And this is according to newly released filings on how much each of the 12 Democratic candidates have raised and spent and have left in their little money bags. Among his biggest expenses is $924,000 spent on EJCR LLC, doing business as Advanced Aviation Team. And this is a company that offers private jet charter services according to FEC data. The figure represents about 1 out of every $16 his campaign raised after taking in $15.7 million and spending $17.6 million during the same time period. So with his anemic fundraising haul, Biden's total cash on hand is less than all of his main rivals for the nomination, even including Kamala Harris. Now, her polls are in the toilet, but she's recently raised $10.5 million. That's what she has on hand. So, wow, Bernie bros, don't pass up the opportunity to drop checks on him. He is sitting on a whopping $33.7 million, which means he has more than 3 times left the amount than Biden. He's really, for a socialist, how's that even possible? Why hasn't he given away 90% of everything that he's raised and he's just running on a shoestring because, he doesn't need that money? Again, double standard. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, Miss I'll tax you at 67%, has $25.7 million, and then Mayor Pete has $23.3 million. So Biden is in trouble. And I don't think it's accidental. The mainstream media is not trying to bring him down like a wildebeest on the African Sahara because, they like him. They're trying to bring him down because they want Elizabeth Warren, because they think if they can damage President Trump enough and have a candidate who is, again, a first of her kind type election, first of its kind election, meaning first woman president, that they can overcome their real issue, which is that they have no policy positions that will actually work. They have no new ideas, and they can't assail an ascendant economy, good foreign policy, and reductions in regulation that are driving all of that, reductions in taxes that are driving all of that. They can't. Americans already don't really like the healthcare landscape. Trying to convince Americans to give their healthcare over to the government in total, not some of us, but all of us, that's a losing proposition. So they're struggling with how to make this happen. Okay, they're struggling with it. Also, I'm looking in the chat room and I see, Tracy, Chi, Richard, Cacti, Smoke. everyone in there is kind of talking about the Project Veritas, another sting, another successful sting. And a lot of people are really, they're discussing how a lot of people are still focusing in, zeroing in on impeachment. Look, it's a no-go. There's a reason why Mitch McConnell has said he'll take up a vote, an actual hearing in the Senate, because he's saying if y'all can get a vote out of the House and we can have an impeachment hearing in the Senate, Mitch McConnell is going to call all kinds of Democrats on the stand to testify, and he's going to make them look crazy. They're going to be caught with their pants down, and he's going to set their houses on fire and then probably smoke, cigars while they burn. That's what he's talking about. So I wouldn't get concerned if you see Mitch McConnell saying they will have a hearing and delve into the issues surrounding the impeachment, and you're worried about that for President Trump. Don't be worried at all. President Trump hasn't done anything wrong. They don't have the votes in the Senate to vote to remove him from office. So the hearing would strictly be to ruin the Democrats right before the election. And they're the ones who are setting themselves up for it, except Nancy Pelosi. That's why she said, and I wasn't able to get the audio because I couldn't find it on YouTube. Nancy Pelosi said the voters will not decide this impeachment. If that's not some lunacy, I've never heard any. Nancy Pelosi is actually admitting that she doesn't want the American people to decide impeachment. She wants that to be strictly the purview of the Democrats. How can you support these people? If you're watching this show right now and you support the Democrats, how are you doing that? Why? Why are you doing it? Can you please explain yourself? All right. So, yeah, Joe Biden is do as I say, not as I do. He didn't even try. He's not even trying, you guys. All right. So let's go over to my good friend Jim Hoft over the Gateway Pundit has this story. After his first 100 days in office, President Trump holds a 50% approval rating, 5 points higher than Obama, despite the impeachment scam. So can you imagine what President Trump's numbers would be if they weren't attempting to impeach him? His record after 1,000 days is actually pretty stunning. Barack Obama's approval at this same time in his presidency was 45%. And I just want to give you a few of these fantastic results, these results that we're getting from having a president who's in there to put America first. And can I just for 1 second before I get to his accomplishments, there's such a long list. And mine on my website's not actually updated. So just in case you're wondering, you can find a huge list on my website, but it's not like I haven't gone and updated it in a few months. Can I just say that for someone who he went into the office as a pretty nominal Christian, President Trump has been one of those presidents who's been much more favorable to religious liberty. He seems to care deeply whether or not we're going to have the ability to, to practice our faith as we see fit. He seems really concerned about that. And I just want to make that point because I think a lot of people seem obsessed with, President Trump's been married more than one time or whatever it is that there is your foible with him. But let's just look at his actions. Okay. So here's a few things. So, and some of these are so like we've already discussed them. So there's just so many of them. The ratio of debt to GDP is decreasing drastically from 105.3% when Obama was president to 103.2% at the end of the second quarter of 2019. The jobs numbers through the end of September of 2019 show an increase of more than 6.3 million jobs since President Trump won the 2016 election. And now the unemployment rate is the lowest that we've had in 50 years at 3.5%. And the same period under Obama, 2.5 million jobs were lost and unemployment skyrocketed to 9%. For those who are saying that this economic recovery is due to Barack Obama, please pull your head out and get with us here. You're not right. You're wrong. The median income is the best it has ever been. There's been an increase in annual income of over $5,000 per family. Middle-class incomes, after adjusting for inflation, have surged $5,000 since Donald Trump became president. And foreign policy, the president has actually eliminated ISIS. Now, do you guys remember President Obama looking right at the camera and telling us that ISIS would be around for a generation and there was nothing we could do about it. Do you guys remember him saying that, it was just a part of reality? Do you guys, since we're reminiscing, do you guys remember when the mayor of London, they'd had a bunch of knife attacks, and the mayor of London said that knife attacks and violence like what they were experiencing was just a part of the new reality that they were living in. And over here, we were like losing our minds, like slamming our hands on tables and, just like literally losing it, because there is no new normal. When we had high crime, we had crackdowns. We had new policies that were enacted. People went to their elected officials and said, you better do something about this crime. The Black community said, you better do something about this crime. And they did. So the idea that we had a president of the United States who told us we were going to have to kind of just get used to ISIS, get used to them sending their people over here to kill us, get used to the homeland terror attacks. I mean, it just makes me sick. I get nauseous thinking about how we were told this is the new normal. And now we have President Trump and he's like, not only is it not normal, but I think I'll go and I'll crush ISIS under my feet. I think we'll crush them. We'll show them what America is really made of. We'll strengthen our military. We'll strengthen all of it. We'll just do as much as we can to make this as good as we can. And that's what we're going to try. We're not going to say it's the new normal. We're going to work in the opposite direction. If that's normal under Obama, we're going in the other way. I just, I really wish that people could give him some credit. Have you ever done something that you thought, oh my goodness, look what I've done, and then you didn't get any credit for it? Now this happens. Come on, if you're a grown up, this happens. But I've never seen anyone do so much and get so little credit as President Trump. Yeah, I don't. So, anyway, that's foreign policy, and that's not all of his accomplishments. I'm just giving you the highlights. U.S. policy, it's all of the appointments, the judicial appointments. That's where the money is really being made for the future. And by money, I mean political capital. Just having people being able to find their way into a courtroom and have the Constitution be the rule instead of having some over-emotional judge, deciding cases based on what judicial activists have told them they should do. Pretty amazing. So, and I think, obviously, the president has also done some amazing things. 90 executive actions in his first 100 days, dismantling Obama's climate change initiatives, travel bans for individuals from a select number of countries embroiled in terrorist atrocities, enforcing regulatory reform, protecting law enforcement, defeating ISIS, mandating that every new regulation has 2 regulations eliminated, building a border wall, and that's some. He's built some. Rebuilding the military, cutting funding for sanctuary cities, approving the Keystone and Dakota pipelines, exiting the U.S. from TPP. So much good stuff. So you'll find this link in the show notes. So you can read the rest for yourself. I just wanted to make sure that we got started on that. When we get back, I'm going to tell you what this Norwegian study found for people where basically they have a modern marriage and the man does a whole lot of chores, and those marriages usually end up in divorce. So if anything, the men are going to want to come back after the break. Stay there.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
Please be done.
over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. Cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Show the world that you're tougher than tough. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Colbert. Filling in for Smokey, because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless, dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly. Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Okay, forest animals, kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay. Squirrel.
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Stacy on the Right.
Hey guys, thanks so much for being with us. I had this bit of audio from Jim Jordan, and he was reacting to Hunter Biden's interview on TV yesterday. And so I thought I would let you listen to that real quick, and then we'll get into this Norwegian study. Also, before we even, let's do this. Let's first get to this. Trump mocks Democratic leaders saying, do you think they like me? So you guys must have heard about this blow up between President Trump and Nancy Pelosi. And they actually had this, they had a little bit of a dust up at this meeting. And then President Trump tweeted out, Nancy Pelosi needs help fast, after Pelosi and two other Democratic leaders walked out of a White House meeting with him on Wednesday. Now, he says there's either something wrong with her upstairs or she just plain doesn't like our great country. She had a total meltdown at the White House today. It was very sad to watch. Pray for her. She's a very sick person. Now, today, Thursday, I saw on Twitter that Pelosi owns Trump was trending, which means nothing. Twitter's owned by the libs. They have the accounts that get the most attention on there. And their majority of the accounts on there are libs. So for them to have that trending means nothing. I mean, it used to mean something when something was trending on Twitter. Now we just know the algorithm is helping Democrats. So President Trump tweeted 3 photographs to show his disgust. He tweeted out, do you think they like me? Showing apparently annoyed Democratic leaders Pelosi, House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer with their faces looking kind of grim. Another picture showed Pelosi standing up at the conference table pointing at the president. Trump titled this one, Nervous Nancy's Unhinged Meltdown, which is funny to me because the president always sits at the middle of the table. Maybe he sits there because then he's in front of the flags. Obviously, it's a room I've never been in, y'all. I've been in the White House before, y'all, but not in that room. And a third picture showed the conference room from Trump's perspective with the 3 empty seats where the Democrat leaders had been sitting. Trump captioned this one, the do-nothing Democrats, Pelosi and Schumer, stormed out of the cabinet room. Now, Stephanie Grisham tweeted out, real Donald Trump was measured and decisive today. Speaker Pelosi walking out was baffling but not surprising, with no intention of participating in a meeting on national security. Dem leadership chose to storm out and whine to cameras. Everyone else stayed to work on behalf of our country. That's pretty typical. So let's pivot back to the Joe Biden stuff. Here is Jim Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan, talking some sense about Hunter Biden going on television.
Well, I think two things stuck out. The first is it sounds like he's just upset that he got caught in this ridiculous arrangement. And then second, he said that something about when his dad becomes president. I don't think that's going to happen. But look, the American people knew right from the get-go this was wrong. The American people understand fairness. They instinctively get this wasn't fair, this wasn't proper, this wasn't right. And I think it was pretty obvious. He just said now kind of what the American people already understood when this story first broke. Yeah, I mean, look, we don't know. We just know that this stuff smells. I mean, the whole arrangement with China, the $1 billion from a subsidiary bank of the Bank of China, this arrangement with Burisma, this company in the Ukraine where Hunter Biden had no experience, didn't know the language, no experience in the energy sector, and not an expert on Ukraine, gets this position. I think the American people, again, they saw this for what it is. They know it smells. They know it's wrong. And that's the fact. So look, let's deal with the issues that the American people care about now. Let's work on prescription.
Were you guys able to hear that? That was Jim Jordan. I could hear it in my ear. I had yeah. So I'm hoping you guys could hear that. Anyway, I'm really surprised. Oh, okay. Sound clips are low compared to my voice volume. Yeah, and I turned that one up a little bit. I'll work on that, you guys. A little bit of issues, and I can Noah can help me out with that after the show. But again, with this Biden thing, it feels a little bit like a hit job, but it's not a hit job, because a hit job is where you're unsuspecting, you have no idea, you're minding your business and you haven't really done anything wrong, and people come after you and they use information that is either false or trumped up, made up, a creation out of their own mind, etc. Or they use something you've done that isn't even bad and they try to tear you down with it. This information about Joe Biden and his son Hunter, none of it's made up. It's all true. It all has relevancy because he was vice president of the United States while all this was going on. And because President Obama made a big, huge statement about how he wouldn't have any of his family members working for foreign governments. And that was Obama digging against the Clintons, because the Clintons had the foundation and they were going around speaking to foreign governments and being paid. So can I call it a hit job if what everyone is saying about him is true? I guess the part about it that's a hit job is that his friends in the media, people who are supposed to support him and have his back, are the ones who are executing the informational campaign against him. So maybe that's the way in which it is a hit job. Anyway, so now let's get to this study. So you guys, when I read this, I was like, interesting. The more chores a husband does. So you guys know what I did first. It's time for a story. I read this story yesterday, right after the show. Well, it was actually, I'd gone and picked up our youngest child. I'd done a couple more things. And then I was sitting in here and my husband showed up after work and he walked in and said, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" You know, we greeted each other. And then I had this story up and I said, "Could this be true?" And he was like, "What is it?" And so I start telling him about what it says. Couples may be better off living in a traditional household where women do all the housework if they want to stay together, according from a report from the Oslo and Akerhouse University College of Applied Science. So my husband had actually, we'd come over here. I was sitting right here. He came over, we're talking. And as he's walking out, I read that sentence and he stopped at the door to our little office here and turned around and he said, "What?" Because, you know, men are always interested in things that validate their desire not to do chores. So, and he and we have a very traditional household when it comes to the cleaning and the cooking and stuff, because I've been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years of our marriage. And then, well, actually longer than that. No, I worked the first couple of years. So about 15 years of our marriage, I've been a stay-at-home mom. And then the other parts, like right now, it's kind of a hybrid because I work from home, but I only work for a few hours a day. So it doesn't stop me from doing the cleaning and stuff like that. But I also come from a traditional household where me and my sister were taught from the time we could stand up, we helped clean out the tub after we had a bath. We helped, we rounded up the little trash cans, the little waste bins that you'll have one in your bedroom or what have you, one in the bathroom. We rounded up the waste bins. From the time we could stand up, we helped. And so our kids have been the same way. I waited a little later to start them off, but they've always had to pick up their own toys and clean up their own rooms, you know, the toy parts, and then I would vacuum, etc. And then when our kids got old enough, Maya especially was so anxious to wash dishes that I taught her how. I think she was like 8 years old, and she would stand on a chair in the kitchen at the sink, and she would, you know, basically be trying to work at washing dishes, and then I would come behind her and, you know, basically do it myself. So in the way when you say the woman is responsible for all the housework, well, yeah, I'm responsible for it, but the kids help. So, and then of course my husband takes the traditional male role. He's responsible for all the yard stuff. So I help, but he mows the grass. He scrapes the sidewalk. He blows the leaves. If it snows, he's the one who goes out with the thing and, you know, gets the snow up. He blows off the courtyard, you know, in other words, it's very traditional. He takes out the trash. Our son takes out the trash. I will take out trash, but it's not one of my duties. The toilets in our house, of which there are quite a few, I clean those and the kids clean them. Our son knows how to do all of the things I named. He knows how to wash dishes, wash clothes. He knows how to do all that stuff. So if he ever lives alone as an adult, which he probably will for a little while, he'll be able to completely take care of himself. But as he's grown up, he's seen the traditional roles played out by me and my husband, where the cleaning and stuff, the cooking. My husband actually knows how to cook. He's actually a great cook. And he has certain dishes that he makes that we like, and we'll say, hey, would you make, you know, and he'll make that. But he does not cook every week. Well, he makes breakfast on the weekends. Like he'll cook all these eggs and bacon and all that stuff, but he doesn't cook dinner every week. He might cook dinner, you know, once every 2 or 3 weeks. So it's very traditional and it works for us, but we grew up in those kinds of households. So it's not a departure for us. There's nothing for us to learn in doing it this way. So this report by Norwegian researchers was actually launched because they wanted to see how married and cohabitating men and women divided housework and childcare throughout their various life stages, analyzing 2 separate studies involving nearly 20,000 men and women aged 18 to 79. The life course generation and gender, it was one part of the study. The study of the Norwegian life course aging and generations was the second part, 2 separate studies. And the participants respectively answered questions about the division of housework and childcare, their attitudes towards gender equality, as well as other variables like life stage and social class. Now, I just want to, from the giddy up, before I go into any more details, tell you that we do believe that men and women are created equal in the sight of God, but we also believe that men and women are complementary in nature, and that men are more inclined to do certain things and are better at those things, and women are more inclined to do certain things and are better at those things. And that some women might be better at, let's say, mowing the grass, repairing a broken lawnmower, etc. But it doesn't mean that that particular woman is the example for all women, or that she should be made to feel bad about herself, or that women who can't fix a lawnmower should be made to feel bad about themselves. We also have taught the kids that no matter what the Avengers shows on TV, women are not normally stronger than men or able to beat them up by jumping on their shoulders and wrenching them to the ground with their legs, and that a lot of what they see on television is an improper representation of what would happen between a fight between a man and a woman, and that the idea that men are bad somehow because they're masculine is utterly ridiculous and will work to make our daughters single for the rest of their lives. So we've been very, very clear about that. I've also talked to my son individually and told him he should be looking for a woman who knows how to cook, who knows how to clean, and isn't afraid to do those things and doesn't think that those things diminish her. A woman who wants to serve the man she ends up marrying in the same way that he should want to serve his wife. We'll see how all of that works out, but we have tried to teach that and impart that to them. So the results showed that 65% of couples equally or nearly divided childcare, but not housework. And that's how it is at our house. My husband does just as much for the kids as I do. Now that they're bigger, when they were smaller and I was their primary caregiver, obviously I was breastfeeding them, changing their diapers and keeping them clean and all that stuff. But he's always been the one to read their stories at night and spent a huge amount of time with them. So 65% of couples that equally or nearly equally divided their childcare but not housework, women reported doing all or most of the housework in 11% of the couples and somewhat more of the work in 60% of the couples. 25% of the couples divided the work more equally, with younger couples, childless couples, and couples where the woman had a full-time job among those more likely to split the chores equally. Researchers did not find an association between a traditional share of housework, women doing most of the work, and a lower risk of divorce. But they did report untraditional couples had a greater risk for divorce. Men who did as much or more of the housework were more likely to get divorced than couples where the woman did most of the housework over a period of 4 years. Now, is this saying that if you have one of these equal arrangements that you're going to get divorced? No. But I got to tell you, men talk to other men, and men who will do a lot of housework at home are seen by other men. If they have to do all the cooking, if they have to do all the cleaning, their wife doesn't know how to do all that stuff. Other men see that as that man being married to a woman who is not as good as other women. Men, I don't care what they say on paper. I don't care what they've been trained to say at work. Men see a woman in a kitchen. You don't even have to be dressed up cute. You standing in front of a stove is enough to elicit a smile out of any man. I know for a fact because I've seen men with a regular look on their face. We'll be at their house or they'll be at our house. And any woman who walks up to the stove and starts stirring a dish or sets out plates or starts slicing vegetables, all the men in the room start smiling. They smile at the one doing the work. So I'm not really interested in people getting triggered about me telling the truth about that. What I am interested in is people just acknowledging the truth about the way men are wired. Men want women to wear dresses and cook. They want women to be soft and sweet. They want women to laugh. They want women to have long hair. Don't hate. Participate. All right. That link is in the show notes. I'll be back with you tomorrow. God bless.